Happy Saturday evening, y'all. Welcome to Texas Encounters and Mysterious Sightings. I'm your host, Lieutenant. Happy Saturday First evening, off, let me say happy early Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Sightings. Hope y'all have a great Mother's Day tomorrow. First off, let me say happy early Mother's Day to all enjoy your Sunday. Now, as I promised, tomorrow we have a very special guest. Enjoy your Sunday. And this guest is very knowledgeable. We have a Bigfoot, very special guest. And it is just a blessing to have him on this show. Ladies and gentlemen, from Oldbear's Den of Bigfoot, I give y'all Oldbear. Oldbear, how are you doing today, buddy? Ladies and gentlemen, from Oldbear's Den of Bigfoot, I give y'all Oldbear. We're gonna have us an interesting show tonight, and I want to start out the show by asking you. We're gonna have us an interesting show. How did you get into the realm of Bigfoot? The show by asking
at age 16, I was deer hunting here in West Virginia, is where I live, and a Bigfoot walked out from behind a 7-foot tall boulder. West Virginia is where I live. On the last day of buck season here in West Virginia, at 20 feet from me, and that's why I got me started. On the last day of buck season here in West Virginia.
Do you have any kind of description on the Bigfoot?
Yeah, it's between 7.5 to 8 foot tall, probably 4.5 foot across his chest. A dark reddish brown hair, had no hair on his face, had high cheekbones, had a human type nose, and when I say human type nose, it come down at a point, like ours do, and it wasn't flat. It had very thin lips. It had wrinkles between the nose and the lips. The distance between those is probably 1.5 inches, maybe 2.5 inches. And had you could see the chin. There wasn't hardly any neck to the thing. The sides of the head, it looked like it was either very thick muscle that came down from just below maybe where its ears should have been, but I never saw the ears because they were covered over by hair.
Right.
And it had thick muscle that came down and stretched down to its shoulders. The teeth were human-like. They like every human has. They have the incisor teeth that look somewhat like fangs or something, but they're not really fangs. They're just the really sharp teeth that we have in our front of our mouths. The teeth look like huge chiclets, pretty much.
Wow.
That's the best way to describe them.
Wow.
And I saw this thing go from surprise to anger, and then back to puzzlement and a slight surprise look on its face, which it showed the emotion through its face. And then it went to fear, because at that point I clicked the hammer back on a 30-30 rifle, and at that distance, there would have been a dead Bigfoot if it would have took another step towards me.
Wow, that's amazing. When you seen this Bigfoot move, can you tell us how it moved? Was it like partially slumped? Was it straight up? Was it very agile? Did it have a lot of definition? Or was it kind of maybe just like a little bulky, not necessarily cut up, like muscular?
This thing made Arnold Schwarzenegger look like well, the show Saved by the Bell, the guy that was the geeky guy, the real thin, little arms, little legs guy that was on there.
Yes.
That's what Arnold Schwarzenegger would have looked like beside this thing.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It had huge arms. Its forearms was almost as big as my thighs. And I'm 300 plus pounds. At the time when this happened, I was playing football. And, I was in high school. I was playing football, doing stuff like that, always out and running around doing stuff with, my buddies and starting to chase girls. And, you get pretty well, toned up. And its forearms as big as my thighs. And, the shoulders on this thing, the upper arms, they were all cut and ripped. You could see every time it moved, it'd be a muscle group move. The legs on this thing look like two white oak trees that are 50, 60 years old. Mm-hmm. He was just huge in proportion to any human being that I've ever met.
Wow.
And it was frightening, but I didn't have time to be frightened because this creature, this happened, and it lasted about a total of 2.5 to 3 minutes with it standing there looking at me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have time to be scared. I was scared, but I just knew if I showed any kind of fear, I would have been dinner. I would have been part of the missing 411 in a heartbeat.
Wow. So when you had this encounter, was there any dread involved? Like, did you have a sudden onset of any kind of dread prior to seeing this creature? Like maybe something was watching you, or was it just like he stepped out in front of you and you're like, whoa?
Well, there was no dread. I did notice that the woods were completely quiet. And I've hunted all my life. Mm-hmm. And when the woods go quiet, you still hear birds off at a distance. You still hear an occasional squirrel, chattering or barking. And you hear chipmunks at a distance, doing their little chirps and stuff like that. There was none of that.
Wow.
When I got in there, it was super quiet. I walked in, it was dry. I made a lot of noise going in there. I know I did. I wasn't an expert hunter by this stage, by no means. I'm still not. I'm still learning. Even at 52 years old, I'm still learning. Mm-hmm. But whenever it walked out, there was a slight moment that I had fear, but I knew I couldn't show it and couldn't let that affect my judgment. Something that big and that strong and that powerful in front of you, you don't take any chances. You don't show fear, because fear will get you killed.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I've known on, with my property I know for sure I have a Bigfoot. I've caught some prints. One of the most astonishing things that I captured was about 3 weeks ago, and I found a bent over, I'm not going to call it a sapling, it was maybe a little bit bigger than a sapling, but it was bent over in an arch over the main trail where all the game goes through in my woods. And the top of the arch was about 10 foot at least. I had my son stand over it, and he's about my height. He's about 5'7", and it was about another good 5 to almost 6 foot to the top of the arch.
Yeah, that's a Bigfoot.
Yeah, and prior to that, I caught 2 more of those same type structures, but they were a lot smaller. The top of the arch was 5.5 to maybe 6 foot tall to the arch, and they were bent over the game trail, same game trail, but what I noticed is they were all pointing the same direction, and they were probably, the big one to the next one was probably 150 yards apart, and then from that one to the last one I found, I'm gonna say was about a good 350 yards away. Have you ever heard anything of the sort with these tree structures pointing in the same direction? And if so, is there any meaning to that? If you know, in your personal opinion.
Yeah, I've found them in West Virginia. I've found them in Kentucky. I've found them in Ohio. I've found them in North Carolina, Tennessee. I've seen them in South Carolina along highways. I've seen them all the way out in Oregon.
Wow.
Midwest. I've been in North and South Dakota, Idaho. I've seen them everywhere there. I've been to California, but I've never seen any structures, because I wasn't in the predominantly where Bigfoot lives.
Right.
But they are there for a reason, and the reason that I have came up with, and it's proven true, and it's a marker for them to, when they hunt, they can push the deer that way, and they can keep themselves straight, because they will set like standards like hunters do.
Mm-hmm.
And when the deer come through, they'll reach out and grab one and break its neck or break its legs, and they'll take only what they need to survive on,
right,
and let the rest go. It helps them keep the deer drive in the line to where the standards are going to be.
Wow. Yeah, I was talking with another gentleman on one of my live streams, Al Santoriga, and he told me one of his investigations that he noticed when he found tree structures in that same area. He noticed that they would all point in the same direction. Like maybe if he found one that was south, pointing south, the next one he found was pointing south, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
Yeah, they're all a directional marker for them to keep themselves straight on where they need to go from a central point, and the central point could be a tree turned upside, ripped up out of the ground, and the top of the tree shoved back into the ground, and then the bows, depending on which way they go, shows them the directional marker to water, how they want to run their deer drives, how they want to, it also gives them a directional marker on to get back to the central post that they come up on them. And they're done in different ways. Every Bigfoot clan that I've ever came in contact with does them a little bit differently than the other one. It's as a personal marker for that clan.
Right.
It helps the clan get to points they need to get to gather food or water or whatever they need.
Wow. So, of course, I prepared for this watching your videos, and one of the things I come across on your videos, Bear, and it was very interesting, and it's so mysterious because you can ask so many people this question and they can't tell you what their theory is or what the possibility this could mean. And you had an interesting theory on the X's that these creatures make. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, whenever a Bigfoot, and it's always the alpha that does this, I've came into an area where two clans are living close to each other, and the big alpha, the big male, and they get that way by defeating other males in the clan, fighting their way through the males that are in the clan, and they get to be the top dog.
Right.
Because they're the biggest, baddest, meanest Bigfoot in that clan. And they take trees and make X's that may adjoin to another Bigfoot clan's territory, or if there's something there in that area that, you know, maybe somebody has shot at a Bigfoot or shot a Bigfoot, and it's an area that there's a lot of humans in, and people have taken shots at them, they'll put X's up for that also. But it's generally to tell humans and Bigfoot to stay out. This is my land. This is where my family resides. You come in here, you deal with me and me only.
Right, kind of like how we put up a no trespassing sign.
Well, it's a little more forceful than that, because they
Right.
pick the biggest tree that they can actually pick up, and when you see the big X's with the root balls sticking up in the air, it's usually the biggest tree that Bigfoot can rip out of the ground, turn upside down, and shove back into the ground by himself.
Wow. Wow, and does every clan of Bigfoot use this particular technique? I mean, does it differ from clan to clan, or is it pretty much the same?
It's pretty much the same. It's always the big alpha that does it, and he does it because there's trouble. It's caused trouble for his clan, so he's telling his clan not to go there, and he's telling other Bigfoot stay out, or it's going to be war.
Right. Wow. That's amazing. That's just so much useful information in just a few minutes that, you know, that you have told that a lot of people over the years have not been able to gather.
They gather the information. They just don't know how. They don't have the ones that are. You got people that go out and look for Bigfoot, and then you got people that actually go out and investigate what Bigfoot is doing.
Right.
There's two different types of investigators out there. There's the ones that are part-time and just want to do it for the fun and for the thrills, and then you have the people that go out and do it because they are genuinely interested in these creatures. They want to know about them. They want to find out as much as they can, and they come up with the same answers I've got.
Right. And see, that's where I think I fall into, because when I go out, I honestly, and I'll be truthful, y'all, I honestly don't want to have a face-to-face encounter with a Bigfoot, a dogman, or whatever. My whole intention is to gather evidence, you know, prints, find structures, kind of find a routine, put up trail cameras, gather photo evidence, and you know, it's nearly impossible to go out and actually just see a Bigfoot. I mean, I've always been told, if you go out looking for one, you'll never find it.
Well, I got a problem with that statement. When I go out, I'm always looking for a Bigfoot, and I always seem to find them. They either I find them or they find me. One way or another, we always end up interceding across our two paths.
Wow. And that's interesting, because, you know, like I said, there's some people that go out looking for it, and their entire career they never come across one. I mean,
right.
maybe it's a lack of experience. They don't know what to look for or how to look for it. I mean, that's, you know, it's just like there was a saying I seen. It says, "Don't go in the woods looking for Bigfoot. Go into the woods and look for what isn't supposed to be there."
Yeah.
And I kind of found that interesting, because that really changes my entire way I go out into the woods and look for things now. And And it kind of proves to be true because I went out a few weeks ago and I caught audio evidence at about 6 in the morning on a Saturday. And as the daylight was breaking, I'm looking across the creek. And across my creek, there's a huge reservoir, probably about 150 yards to that bank on that edge. And as I was looking in the foliage, I'm just scanning to see what isn't supposed to be there. And lo and behold, I seen what looked like to be a wide set of shoulders and a head that looked like it was just very little sway to it. Like you can barely see it move. But as I tried to get my camera on it, you couldn't see it. I mean, it was just like it blended in so well. And
yes,
it was nearly impossible. When I reviewed the footage, you couldn't see it. But with my naked eye, I could see something that wasn't supposed to be there. And I could see it barely just swaying every now and then just a little bit. And I watched it for about 20 minutes, and it hardly even moved. I mean, I was just amazed. And then as we're watching this thing, off to our left, we hear a vocalization. So, of course, we look to the left. There's that thing's chance to move. And as we go to pan back, it's gone.
Right.
So, that right there is just perfect example how they say if you got your eyes fixed on one, to the left, to the right, or behind you, you're going to probably hear one behind you to the side and make a distraction to get your attention so you can get your eye off the one you're actually seeing.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, and
the biggest issue that most people have when it comes to going out and doing research for Bigfoot and wanting to, physically get pictures or video of them is they go out and they haphazardly, they might sit down and think about it, okay, well, we're going to walk down this path. I've heard vocalizations on it. That's all well and good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting anybody down for that. The problem is, if you want to see a Bigfoot, you have to go about it with a military mindset. You have to figure out where the best place is for them to hold up during that time of day that you're going to be there until dark. And then once it gets dark, where they're going to go, depending upon where the most likely place for game animals are going to be, the most likely place where they're going to get apples, wild apples, berries, where everything is coming into season. Because every year, everybody knows blackberries come in at a certain time.
Right.
Morel mushrooms come in at a certain time. And I've had guys that said, I went out to pick morel mushrooms, and last year there was 100 of them. I got 10 bags, bread bags full of them last year in this one spot, and I go back next year, same time, same kind of weather, and there's none.
Wow.
That's because Bigfoot has already walked in there, and the deer have been in there much longer too.
Right. Wow.
But you have to do your research with a military-type mindset because that's what they act on. They can think on the same level that we do. They're not a stupid creature. They're very smart. They can figure you out in moments. Within 2 to 3 minutes, they know what you're there for. They know what you're doing. And they know how to get around you.
Wow.
You have to think in a military-type mindset because that's the way everything is run in a clan of Bigfoot. The Big Alpha, he is the 5-star general. He is the president. Nobody can veto his power. Everybody answers to him. Even the alpha female answers to him.
Wow.
Any subordinates, any subordinates males in that clan, they don't make a move unless he authorizes it.
Wow. So yeah, that really does sound like they're very very structured as far as
Yes.
their personal clan, and wow, I did not know that. So, and that goes to show everybody in the chat, that goes to show you that these animals are very, very, very intelligent. I mean, I truly believe that's why we don't see them hardly ever, is because they're that intelligent. They have the mindset to stay hidden. And you're right, Barry. It's just like the military, just like a sniper, man. You'll never see them. I mean, they're just that good at staying hidden, and that's their job, is to stay hidden, and that totally coincides with what you're saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
yeah. If you look at them, male, he'll go to his prominent point or prominent place in a semi-flat area, and he goes there, and the other males come to him. He dictates what that male's going to do. Whether that male goes out and with 2 or 3 other males, and their job is to get deer or game animals that they are going to eat, whether it be deer, coyotes, coons, possums, skunks. They eat all animals of the forest.
right.
It doesn't make any difference to them. They'll eat it all.
Yeah.
And then he'll tell another group of males, well, your job is to go and patrol and make sure there's no humans.
So with that being said, is there a, I know this has been brought up a lot, is there like a day watcher type, male or female?
Oh, yeah.
There is. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Because they
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
There are males in the group, in the clan, that actually sleep at night. Most of them do not sleep at night. That includes the females. Now, the females, they have different shifts because of the number of young that's in the clan at that time. Whether there's females that are pregnant, going to have little ones. It all depends on those situations when it comes to the females. Their job is to take care of the young and to prepare food and to be there when the males get back.
Right. Wow, that's... Yeah,
and then the males, they just, there's males, there might be 4 or 5 males that take up positions during the day and watch for human people walking through the woods, because if it's a national forest, there's going to be people walking on trails. They watch the trails. They know when people are coming through. They can hear you coming from a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, or a mile away, depending upon how dry it is or how loud the people are. You are not going to catch them off guard, because they know if they fall asleep during the day, they are going to answer to the big male, and that means pain, because that's the way he rules. He rules with an iron fist.
So they have some sort of disciplinary regimen? I mean, like, if he does have to answer to the male, does he from what it sounds like, he inflicts some sort of pain? Do you know if it's maybe like maybe he slams him to the ground, or maybe he punches him in the chest, or any of that sort? Do you know any?
Well, I've been into an area before, after I got out of I guess what you could say would be the rookie stage of doing investigations, and went into an area, and I heard most god awful noise there was to hear, and it was came up somehow. I got around their daytime sentry. I don't know how I did it. I still couldn't tell you today how I did it. I know how to do it now, but I couldn't explain it to you. I just lucked in and happened to go in and get within probably 75, 80 yards of where this was going on, and was up higher and could see down through the forest and would see the male. He was disciplining another male because he looked like he was probably 1.5 times big as the other one, and he was pounding this Bigfoot in the chest with both fists. He would open hand smack this Bigfoot. He actually got to a point at one part that he picked the Bigfoot up and slung it.
Wow.
It looked like he was slinging on a rag doll.
Wow. That's crazy. That just shows you how well structured they are. I mean, that's amazing. That's like a military type structure. That you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Now, this is a question that pops up a lot from me and to me, is breeding and birthing. Is there a season? One, is there a season that they breed? Is it a seasonal type thing, or is it all year round? And two, are they able to have twins or triplets?
When the male wants to, the female doesn't have a choice.
Okay.
And if she turns up pregnant, they'll have a young in about the same amount of time as a human woman does.
Wow.
It's a little bit faster with them, probably 7, 8 months, because of the time of year. They try to have their young, they try to plan around the seasons so that they have their young in either the spring or late summer. But they've been known to have them in the winter. It just depends on what type of area they're in, the food supply they have, and the type of structure that they have to stay in during the winter, which could be, a cave. If it's a cave, they're not stupid. They've been taught, back from the time of when they associated with the Indian tribes here in the U.S., back before, the settlers came in from England and Germany and Italy and all the countries in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
They learned how to make fire. They're not dumb. They can make a fire, and a lot of people don't believe that. But I can take you to some caves here in West Virginia that deep inside of them there's fire pits that are made out of stone. They just stack stones around and they put there's ashes in it. And I don't know of any people that go into those caves because it's not a real smart thing to do a lot of times.
Right, absolutely, it ain't. Especially those. I know those caves get complete pitch black, and even with a flashlight, I mean,
it's still dark.
It's still dark. Yeah, you're right, and just something you don't want to turn the corner and roll up on, honestly, because that. Just like them rolling up on our house, we roll up in their house, that would be a bad way.
Well, somebody would die, and it wouldn't be the Bigfoot unless you had a lot of firepower with you. But by the time you get out, they're going to get to you.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And with that, I've pondered the question. I've heard people talk about it, and it's hard to decipher from who. And who knows what or whatever, but I always tend to go with the most experienced. And if you happen to drop a Bigfoot, would there be a snowball's chance in hell you would ever make it out with the body?
Well, you can make it out if they're a rogue Bigfoot. If it's a clan situation, you have minus 1,000% chance of making it out.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. How many times have you ever ran into a rogue Bigfoot? Does it happen very often?
I have run into probably 5 sets of them.
And so I guess what I'm trying to get. So if they become rogue, it would probably be because they went against the alpha, whatever the alpha said, right?
No, usually what it is they develop a taste for human flesh.
Oh, really? Wow.
Or a taste for their own flesh, for another Bigfoot.
So there's a possibility they're cannibals?
Genosqua are cannibalistic.
Wow.
And that's an Indian word for man-eater and eater of their own flesh.
Wow. So, I know with bears, once they get a taste for human flesh, human blood, that's all they want. Would that coincide with Bigfoots also? Once they get a taste for human flesh, that's all they go for?
Well, no, they eat nothing but meat at that point. They will eat deer meat, they will eat elk, they will eat moose, they will eat their own kind, they will eat humans. If given a chance, and it doesn't have to be much of a chance. It could be a group of 5, 6, 7 people walking down a trail in a national forest, either here in the east or in the south or the west or the north, or even out in California, Oregon, Washington, the big areas where, there's a lot of forest. If you're walking down a path and there's a man-eater there and it sees you, you're on the menu. If you play your cards right, you'll make it out of there. No, you won't get killed. But if you make one mistake and fall into its hands, you're not coming out.
Wow. So, yeah, just like one of my administrators said in the chat, missing 411, and that's what I was just fixing to ask next. Do you think there's a possibility that with these people going missing in these forests or hiking areas that go missing and never turn up, would that most likely be a possibility that they just fell into the hands of a man-eater?
Well, I would say probably out of all the people, and I'll give you percentages, I would say 40 to 50% of the people that's gone missing and they've never been found have come into contact with a Bigfoot in some way, shape, or form, whether it was a man-eater or not. And then I would say probably 20 to maybe, I'd say 20% have been dog men and werewolves.
Oh, wow.
And then 10% is the rest of the cryptids that are out there.
Wow. That's amazing to hear those type of numbers. Because, that 411 is such a big mystery. David Paul Lydes is he's doing these investigations and, he's got a real big name in this field for, searching for these missing hikers. And it's crazy because, when you watch it, they'll look in a certain spot where this person may or may not have been. And a lot of times they go to the last known location and they go and circle out from there. They may find a shoe or a piece of clothing. They'll keep going on and searching an area just a little further the next day. When they come back through that same area, they find something different.
Yeah.
Wow, that's astonishing. That really is.
How would you explain a man that was physically fit, that was trout fishing in California? How would you explain them finding his boots that were unlaced 10 miles away from where his camper was at? And he was fishing within sight of his camper. A truck camper, a camper that slides in.
Mm-hmm.
Found his bay up over top of a mountain that had the height of over 10,000 feet. And then they found all of his fishing gear, everything, like he had just got back to his camper, and all of his fishing gear was put back in place. The only thing that was missing of his fishing gear was his vest, his fly vest.
Which he was wearing.
Right.
Wow.
The only thing they found 10 miles away was his boots.
Yeah.
Untied.
Yeah, and I remember that. Yeah, you're right. That to me, that's really that's just a total mystery. I mean, I would be baffled to hell to see something like that, because if I was out there, if I was a detective, I was a researcher, investigator, whatever, and I'm trying to find a person that's missing, and then he had a fishing pole, all his fly gear, his vest. And all you find is a pair of boots 10 miles away, but you come back and you find his gear, which wasn't there. That's just mind-blowing. It's really mind-blowing.
And the funny part is, there was none of his footprints in the snow. None.
Wow.
Never made a footprint in the snow from the bottom of the mountain up and over top.
And there was no other footprints
no, they found impressions, but they couldn't. But it had snowed from the time where they started finding the impressions. It had snowed again and snowed them in, and the only reason they knew that they were impressions, they were too big for his boots.
Oh wow, man, that's crazy. That is crazy.
There's only one creature out there that I know of that has a human-type foot that can take 5 and 6 foot strides in deep snow, and that is the Bigfoot.
Yeah. 5, 6 foot strides. A lot of people might not think, 5, 6 foot strides. That's a long stride. That is a very long stride.
Twice what a human can do.
Right, you're absolutely right. That is a very big stride. What is your opinion? Because I know it's with these footprints. A lot of times you'll see a trail of footprints in the snow, and I know people have followed them, and then all of a sudden they just disappear.
Okay.
What is your opinion on that? Because I've heard that come up a lot. Like, a lot of people say they're interdimensional. They can come in and out of dimensions. They turn into orbs, which, in my opinion, I kind of find that far-fetched. But, I mean, I'm not really saying it's out the realm of possibility.
Well, I'm going to say this, and people can get mad. That is out of the possibility. They are a flesh and blood creature. There's a simple explanation, and I have seen Bigfoot do this. I have seen Bigfoot walk through the woods and then jump onto the side of a tree, scale the tree, and go through the tops of the trees.
That makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. So they,
Because I tracked one here in West Virginia in 8 inches of snow that had freshly fallen snow, found fresh footprints no more than an hour old, and came to the top of a ridge and looked down the ridge and was looking at the footprints. Now, this is in oaks, and a few pines and white oaks and red oaks and beech trees, and looked, and this Bigfoot was in the tree and was jumping over to another tree and then to another and then another until it got out of my sight, which didn't take it very long, and walked down there and saw the tracks and saw where it had jumped from that last set of tracks, which were close together, to a tree that was about 6 or 7 feet away, and scaled the tree and went through the treetops.
so they're just as agile in the trees as they are on the ground.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's surprising on how well they can climb and how well they can go through and jump, and the maneuverability of these creatures is, I've not seen a human being able to do that. Not even our Olympic athletes can do what they can do.
Wow. That astonishing, really, Barrett. That's astonishing. Because I mean, it's great to hear you elaborate on that, because the tracks just disappearing in the middle of the snow, and then a lot of people are baffled at where did it go, and you elaborating that, saying that you've seen it, is just something out of this world. I mean, that is amazing information, very amazing information, and wow, I'm tongue twisted, Bear. Really, I'm tongue twisted. That's
Well, Rick, I hate to do this, but can I ask you for a favor, sir? I need to go grab me some water to drink.
Yes, sir.
A bottle of water, and I'll be right back, okay?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Wow, guys, did y'all hear that? That is amazing. And like Lisa just said in the chat a while ago, always look up. Yep, I'm going to be looking up like crazy now. Wow. Wow. What's up, Big Al Santoriga? We got Dude from Texas. Lisa A. Hey, Lisa. We got Tracy in the chat. Steve Riley. Gerald. Yes, Lisa, you're right. That is a wealth of information. It really, really is. Wow. Dude, I'm gonna tell y'all, man. I'm tongue twisted right now. I mean, he has a lot of information. What's your question, Al? Let me see if I can find it. What if the Bigfoot is in a field the size of a football field with no trees, and you find that? How do you explain that? Okay, I'll ask him that, Al. Go up and make sure I didn't miss any more questions. If y'all want to ask a question, y'all, put it in all caps. That way I don't miss it. That way it sticks out a lot. Because when you have like just regular caps, I tend to sometimes miss them. Just make sure I didn't miss any more.
Sorry about that.
No, sir. No problem at all. No problem at all. I have Al Santariga in my chat, and that's one of my most favorite guys, man. Oh, Al, and he wanted me to ask a quick question, real quick.
Sure.
And he wanted to know, what if the Bigfoot is in a field the size of a football field with no trees, and you find that? How do you explain that?
In a field the size of a football field.
Yeah, with no trees around it, and you find the prints. You know, you find the prints with the stride, and then they just stop, and there's no trees around. What is your opinion on that?
Well, that Bigfoot backed up. It stepped back in its own prints. They have the dexterity and the agility to do it.
Wow.
They can walk back out of that field and get back into where they can jump and land on rocks and jump from rock to rock or boulder to boulder. It's not real hard to figure them out. I mean, they are a flesh and blood creature. Period.
Yes, I agree. I'm a lot of people say all these things about these cryptids. My opinion, and I'm sure I'm gonna piss off some people when I say this, but if it's walking this earth physically, it has to be flesh and blood. I mean, I just don't see no way around that. I mean, there's other opinions out there, like with the dog man. There's some that are paranormal. Very well could be. I know Al has some interesting theories on that, and like some are demons. But like with Bigfoot, I really truly believe 100% that they are flesh and blood. I mean, I've always thought.
Well, yeah, they are a flesh and blood creature, but there is a but to it.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Bigfoot or any cryptid that is out there, your Bigfoot, your dog man, and I know probably some people have heard of foxmen and linemen and so on and so forth. Every one of them have a common denominator in their genetic makeup. They are easily possessed by a demon. Therefore, once a demon takes over that body, they do have different abilities because of the demonic possession.
Right.
It's the same as if a human being is taken over by a demon. They've talked about people that have been able to levitate up off of a bed. Their head spin completely around. Them move objects by looking at it and it floating up and then looking away, and other things in the room start floating up. That's because of the demonic possession and the demon's ability to levitate and manipulate things that are on this earth.
Wow. Yeah, and that makes sense. It's just like with people, when they become possessed, they can rattle the bed, levitate, like you say, superhuman strength. Wow. And this is a pretty general question. What do you think the Bigfoot are?
Well, the Bigfoot are the same as anyone that has known me or knows about me knows that I'm an ordained Christian minister, called by Christ to spread the truth.
Yes.
And as such, the Bigfoot are as Goliath. They're part of the Nephilim. And the the reason I say that is because I've read everything that I can in the Holy Bible. I've read the Torah. I've read the Book of Enoch, the other books that are not in the Holy Bible. A lot of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the translations for them.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a lot of that stuff. And the Book of Enoch explains as to what modern day Bigfoot is. Goliath was Nephilim. He had 4 brothers that were bigger than he was. He was over 9 foot tall.
Wow.
Twice the size of any normal man at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And not in height, but in width. He was covered with hair. It didn't say he was completely covered with hair. It says that he had long hair covering his body. So he had extra long hair on his body. Once the Nephilim were, the remnant of the Nephilim became feral and are now the modern day, what we call Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, the Yeren, the Yowie, whatever name they go by, depending upon what area they are in the world. They are tied to Goliath and his brothers.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely Nephilim. Yeah, that 9 foot, man, that's huge. That is really, really huge. Now, as far as Bigfoot communication, and there's a lot of controversy with this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I'm asking these questions to you, because, I mean, you got it together, Bear. How have you heard them communicate?
Through their own language. Their language is very complicated for a human being to understand it, but if you slow it down 10 times, you will pick up English words, you will pick up Native American words. Here in the U.S., you will actually pick up Chinese, Japanese. You will even pick up Russian.
Wow.
Italian, French. Depending upon where they are, you will pick up a dominant language. Like if you're in Canada, you will pick up a lot more French words than you will English. Here in the lower 48, you'll pick up, depending upon, if you're in Pennsylvania, you may pick up Dutch. You may pick up German, because there's a lot of Germans and a lot of Dutch that settled in Pennsylvania.
Right.
It just depends on what language was the predominant language from where people from other countries came here and settled.
Right.
They can communicate with by making tree knocks, howls, whoops. They have through hand signals, through clicks, growls, moans. It's all a communication system for them. Tree knocks are fairly simple.
Right.
A single tree knock, trouble. 2 tree knocks, move to this area now. 3 tree knocks, hide, evade, and get away.
Wow. Man, that's interesting, because every time I've gone onto my property and I've been in the woods and heard a knock, it's always been a single knock.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, dude. Wow.
They're notifying the other Bigfoot. One of the watchers is notifying the other Bigfoot that you're there.
Wow. Dang.
And the funny part is, it's not a piece of wood that they pick up. The Bigfoot can actually take their hands, and they know certain types of trees make a hollow sound when struck a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Like a beech tree or a white oak that's hollowed out over because it's so big and it's the center of it is, had termites or whatever in it.
Right.
All trees make a different noise. And if they hit that a certain way with their hand, they don't punch it because they can break their hands.
Right.
Because they don't know their own strength most of the time when they're the younger ones. The big alphas understand what strength they have.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's a watcher or a beta, they will smack a tree, and it sounds, from a distance, it sounds like a tree knot, like wood on wood. Well, it's actually not. It's a Bigfoot taking his hand and smacking the tree.
Wow.
But they do pick up sticks when it's the young ones.
Right.
The juveniles. And if they're on watch duty, they use a stick and hit a tree, and then they bug out. They boogie away. They go to an area where the alpha is, and they get information from that point there. They go back and relay what they saw, what it was, if it's humans or if it's another Bigfoot clan moving in, or if it's this humongous single Bigfoot that's coming in by itself, something they can't deal with because of their age or their inability to effectively fight something of that nature. They go to the big male and tell him what they saw, and the big male will proceed and if it's just a human, most of the time the big alpha will just say, well, just everybody stay in place.
Right.
Just stay out of sight.
Yep. That's covert. That's what you were
Right.
That's what you were stressing about earlier, that military type structure. Awesome, man. Awesome. I know, like you said a while ago, slowing down the chatter. My administrator wanted me to ask this, Lisa A. In your opinion, is it worth slowing down the samurai tapes from Sierra Nevada to see what was said, or has that ever been done?
That's been done.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, it was slowed down, and they pick up Native American, the Douglas Indian that was in the area from long ago. They pick up English words. They've picked up, out of those, they picked up Chinese and Russian.
Wow. And it makes you wonder. I know, because my mind's going 100 miles an hour right now. Is how they know these languages.
Well, okay. Think about this. Now, when Bigfoot was here, and the only other thing that was here that was comparable in thinking and being able to trade with was the Native American Indian. Mm-hmm. Every tribe had a different dialect.
Right.
The predominant dialect in that area, whether it was the Northwest, the Southwest, the South, here in the East, it was Cherokee. Depending upon the native dialect of the Indian, they understood that. They were able to communicate with the Indians of the time because they would sit and listen to their language, and then they would try to form the sounds. Then you have the sudden influx of the English, the French, the German, the Spanish, the Italian. You had an influx of people from the Netherlands, Holland, Poland, other countries around the world that were already established, came to America to become free. Once they got here, Bigfoot sat back and listened to their native language, because most people didn't know how to speak English. Most of them still knew their homeland language. and it took them time to learn the English language. And once they learned it, they still had a dialect from their previous home.
Right.
So they can pick up on those languages, and if it's a language that they can mimic and think of the words and remember what the word means and what in this sound, they'll add it into their language, trying to communicate to other Bigfoot, because it's a language all of them have learned from birth. And once they learn the language and they add in all these other words to expand their own language, and because their first language, Goliath, was a Philistine, back then Aramaic was a predominant language, and it's went from Aramaic and to Hebrew and Latin and Greek, and all those languages are combined in their speak.
Wow. Man, that's a slew of information. Y'all, this I told y'all, man, Bear is just the encyclopedia of Bigfoot. Man. I'm gonna ask one more question on communication, and then I want to get into what we were talking about before we went on the air.
That's fine.
My administrator, dude from Texas, wanted to know, what is your opinion about them being able to speak to you telepathically?
Well, once again, if it's a Bigfoot or a dog man that's speaking to you telepathically, it's not actually the creature doing it. They are demonically possessed and able to speak to you through what we call mind speak, when it's not actual mind speak. Mind speak is one mind speaking to another.
Right.
But Bigfoot that are demonically possessed or have a demonic oppression on them, what you're actually hearing is the demon that is communicating to you. They didn't lose when the angels fell from heaven.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't lose their power.
Right.
They still had powers that human beings do not have. God never gave us those powers. So they kept those powers to tempt mankind. Once they use one of these creatures, whether it be a dog man or a Bigfoot or one of the many other cryptids that are out in the world, and they take possession of that body, they still have that power to speak to you or make you think that it's actual speak when they're using your own mind against you.
Wow. So the Bigfoot that speak to you telepathically is more or less, and I'm gonna kind of break it down for the people in the chat, are the ones that are demonically possessed, correct?
Right.
Wow. And
it's the same thing that happened to. Now I know probably a lot of people have heard about what happened to Mark. He's an investigator down south. Kerry from Bigfoot Odyssey had him on his show, and he explained what was going on. And I've spoken to Mark myself, and from what he was telling me, and from what he done on what he was talking about on Kerry's show, Bigfoot Odyssey, that is. And he had multiples talking to him at one time. It wasn't just one, it was a multiple of them. So that tells me that there was many demons that were in in that Bigfoot clan that he was researching somehow or another in order to mess with his mind, which they did a real good job of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a Christian man. He knows all about God, and he knows he's safe into where he's going after his body ceases to exist. He knows where he's going. He is. They messed with him. They caused him a lot of mental anguish, a lot of things. You know, they were telling him they were going to kill him. They were going to kill the other investigator that he's with. The whole group is what they said they were going to do, like a hit list. They had that man scared to death. But it was demonic. It was the demons that were telling him all this. But using the Bigfoot body and the demon side, they're all of these creatures that are partially demonic. It's not the predominant side. The dominant side is what you see a lot in the woods. You know, you just see a Bigfoot get up and walk away from you. That Bigfoot ain't possessed. But these Bigfoot were, and they were possessed by a few demons. And I think he said something about 4, maybe 5 were speaking to him at one time. So they can use anything in this world to cause mankind trouble, they're going to do it. And they can easily take over a Bigfoot body or a werewolf or dogman or whatever man combination is out there.
Right.
And cause you a lot of heartache. They can cause you to lose your life. They can, they can pursue you in whatever shape or form they want.
Wow. Al Santarega, and I don't know if I'm just gonna say this. I don't want to say the name, but are you talking about Mark from Florida?
Yes.
Okay, Al. That should answer your question right there, Al. All right. So, what I want to do now, Bear, like I told you a while ago, the Yahoo and the Grassman.
Yep.
Let's start with the Yahoo. The Yahoo I've heard a lot about. I haven't read a whole lot about it because there's not really a whole lot of information on that without a certain show from your area that pops up.
Yeah, and I know them guys.
Do you really?
Yeah, I've met Trapper. I have met. We actually went and met him in Point Pleasant one year. Me and my wife went down there and we spoke to him. I've talked to Trapper and Bill. Both of them are bear hunters. They use hounds. When Trapper was alive, he used to bear hunt with hounds. And I bear hunt with my younger brother. He has hounds, and I go with him because I like hearing the dogs, and I like spending time with my family and very good friends. I mean, I don't go out to kill a bear. I just go out because it's fun.
Right, absolutely.
But I've met every one of that group from the Mountain Monsters. The Yahoo is predominantly in the state of West Virginia. Their territory reaches from the northeastern panhandle down along the Appalachian Mountains, the highlands that are right there, down into Randolph, Greenbrier, as far north as Upshur, down into Clay County. which is just a little northeast of Kanawha County, which the state capital of West Virginia is in Kanawha County. The Yahoo is a aggressive Bigfoot, period. They don't play well with humans. They don't play well with other Bigfoot. They don't. I'm not saying they kill and eat humans and kill and eat Bigfoot. They just don't play well with any other Bigfoot.
Right.
They don't play well with people. They will run you, and I don't mean you'll be jogging. I mean you'll be at a dead run to get away from these things, because whenever they start pushing you out, it's not, oh, we'll throw a pebble at you. Here, catch this tree.
Wow. Yeah, and you know what? In the show, you know, I love that show. You know, of course, the legitimacy of that show is in question. Of course, everybody has their comments about it. I absolutely love it. I think, in my opinion, there's legitimacy to it. I'm not gonna say 100%, but when they actually went after the Yahoo, they had trees thrown at them. I mean, like just falling over. Man, that's wow, dude.
Well, I'll tell you this. Like I said, I know them guys from that show. I've talked to them. I've known Trapper and Bill for probably 5 or 6 years before they were ever approached to do that show. Trapper was actually the one that was approached because they had heard of his group. They were out hunting mountain monsters, and the show pushed them to go after Bigfoot and other, these cryptids. The first ones they went after was just a pilot season, and in the first season they went after the high grass man.
Yes, they did.
And they found out pretty quick that the high grass man is very dangerous.
Yeah.
They also found out when they went after the Yahoo that the Yahoo is not the least bit worried about shoving a tree right on top of you and crushing you like a grape.
Yeah, and you show right, because, man, when that thing was pushing over, throwing over trees, it was just incredible how many were just flying at them at one time. And, man, that's just total aggression. Total aggression.
Well, I can attest to their aggression because of an instance that happened to me in Nicholas County. Went up there to do an investigation, told there was Bigfoot in there, wasn't told what kind. If somebody would have just said, oh, well, there might be Yahoo in there, I wouldn't have went.
Wow.
I got into an area near, I'll tell you the city, it's Summersville, West Virginia. I won't tell you where it's at near Summersville, but I will tell you it is near Summersville. Went into a hollow up there and started in that hollow, got halfway up it, and when I left, I lost the sole of a boot and almost lost my life in that one. They were super aggressive. They tried to push trees over on top of me. They would get within 20, 30 yards and stand behind a tree and scream at me. They didn't throw little pebbles. They threw rocks big enough to fit inside to cover your hand at me. They don't deal with people very well. They don't like people. They've been shot at for 200 years, and I can understand why they're upset.
Right.
But I didn't do it, but they don't forget.
Right, exactly.
I mean, they pass all that stuff down from, one age group to the next, to to the little ones, and the little ones get older, they pass it on down to their young, and it doesn't change from them. They don't elaborate like we do in a story. You know, if people, you know, pass a story down from the person that actually had it happen to them, 2 or 3 generations later, it's done blown up into a big old story, and you know, stuff like that happens. But in the center of that story is the truth, and the truth is what I've come to face though with that night, and it wasn't pretty. I left. I was even armed and left.
Jeez, wow, that's really saying something. That's definitely nothing to play with if you're armed and you left. Definitely. So the Yahoo, and I've heard this when they scream.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the typical Yahoo, or is that just myth?
No, it's not myth. And the
Really?
first part of it is more of a growl. It's the scream is more of a growl, and then the end of it goes to a higher pitch, and it sounds like a ooh.
Oh wow, because and again, I've watched the show, and it just it really sounds like a person screaming Yahoo. I mean, it really does, but I mean, dang man, that answers so much that I got to ask, and hearing that the Yahoo, because I've heard the Yahoo and the Grassman are most definitely some of the most aggressive Bigfoots out there.
Right. The thing of it is, though, the Yahoo, they're not a man eater. They like to scare the living daylights out of you, and that's the way they get you to leave. The Grassman is a big bad Bigfoot. He has no inhibitions about running you out of the woods, whether you're armed or not. They will push trees over on you. They will throw rocks the size of your hand at you. They don't play around with any human coming into their area. And they only tolerate, and if they do tolerate a human in their area, it's because they're getting something from that human.
Right.
And there's a funny thing about the common denominator between the Yahoo and the Grassman. And it seems to be that, now everybody knows what a moonshiner is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay, here in West Virginia, when you moonshine, even back when they had prohibition, revenuers didn't go into the woods here in West Virginia. If they did, they more than likely didn't come back out, because the moonshiners were nothing to play with. Now, you might get caught out on the road, but if you came into the woods and you were part of the revenue service back at that time, which is the modern day alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, if you were that time an ATF agent and you went in the woods around here, moonshiners would make sure you didn't come out. And that's the same thing in Ohio. Places they moonshine in Ohio, it was deep in hollows, very thick hollows, places that most people don't go to.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about the Yahoo and the Grassman, they like mash.
Yes, and I've heard that.
They make moonshine from.
I've heard that. Wow. So the Yahoo, can you tell us like a size and weight on average on how big they are?
Most of the Yahoo that I had seen, and I've seen probably, Yahoo, probably 5 or 6 of them. Most of them were well over 8 feet, and that includes the females. They were solid black. Their skin color was either a dark chocolate or a black. Their hair color was a black. It was never different. I believe they may have been interbred somewhat. I'm just saying, I don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the way they acted, the way they did things, and their facial features were kind of rough. They were just a very dark-looking creature. 8.5, 9 foot tall. At the very least, they were 8.5 foot tall. I've seen one Yahoo that probably pushed 11 foot, easily pushed it.
Wow.
That 11 footer, I would say he was probably 1,000, 1,100 pounds.
Jeez.
The 9 footers are around 800 pounds.
Good night.
Yeah, they're huge creatures. I mean, they're full of nothing but muscle. It's because of the area they live in.
Right.
If you start out the bottom of the mountain and you walk to the top and you go to sit down, you find the flattest place you can sit down, because if you lean one way or the other, you got 1,000 feet to roll down that mountain, and you're not going to get stopped by the trees.
Dang.
I mean, they're straight up and down.
Yeah, that's some rugged terrain. Woo. Rugged terrain. Okay, so the grass man. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bear. I'm sorry.
When it comes to the grass man, I dealt with him once or twice, and I found out I didn't want to deal with him anymore. But I like the Yahoo.
Wow. And are they relatively similar in size?
Yeah. 8, 9, 10 feet easy.
Wow.
800 to 1,000 pounds. Some of the 10 footers I saw probably were pushing 1,200.
Jesus. That is.
Yeah, they're just super huge creatures. And it's because of the climate. Ohio gets a lot of lake effect snow. They get a lot of cold weather. So in order for something like that to live out in that temperatures, it could be 0 degrees or below in northern Ohio, all the way down to Columbus, even further south than that. It could be 0 degrees in the daytime for days on end. In order to survive that kind of temperature, you have to be big and you have to be very hairy to stay warm.
Wow. Yeah, and that serves absolutely true, because, I mean, it's just like last night on B Show, we were talking about like in northeastern Kentucky, how Paul Chafin was saying the deer are much bulkier than they are in the South.
Right.
Wow. And it's there's even, like, he even said he's seen reports in certain parts, or he's seen dogmen in certain parts of the Daniel Boone that were a lot bigger than a lot of the other ones he's seen in a different part.
Yeah.
And I believe that's attributed to the terrain. That's yeah, exactly. Wow.
I lived in Columbus for 5 years. Right. And did investigations up there in northern Ohio, up around Toledo, up around Cleveland. A lot of people look at me kind of funny when I say this, but major cities have Bigfoot just in the suburbs.
You know what? And that serves to be true. And I'll tell you why in a minute. I'll let you finish up. But go ahead.
But while I lived up there, I got into where did an investigation for a guy. He was hearing weird, howls and screams at night. And this guy was a farmer. His calves were disappearing. He had a flock of geese on his property that he had raised. Every one of them disappeared. Their head stayed, but the rest of the body didn't.
Wow.
His chickens disappeared. There's no way for a coyote or a fox to get into the hen house, his hen house. None. He had fence buried in the ground, placed in concrete. The posts were placed in concrete, and they were filled up. Now, this was metal fence with barbed wire interlaced into the metal fencing. Jeez. At 6-inch intervals.
Yeah.
This guy was very particular about his birds.
Right.
But the door was opened on the hen house one night, and there was 2 chickens out of 30 that lived.
Jeez. That's a lot of bird to go missing.
Well, that's what I told him. I said, that's an awful lot of chickens. I said, you sure you don't have something else there that's killed your chickens? And he's like, no, there ain't no fox here. There ain't no coyotes around my property either. I don't allow that. And he was serious. He would go out at night throughout the year and shoot a bunch of coyotes. If there was a fox on his property, he would shoot every fox he saw in the season that they have for fox in Ohio.
Wow.
Every month or two, he would go out and kill coyotes. He hated and despised foxes and coyotes. That man had a hatred for them that I could not explain. I did not understand. I gave up trying to figure this guy out. And, he's like, no, there's none of those creatures on my property. Trust me. And went up there and come to find out that on the backside of his property, he had a moonshine still.
Oh, that explains it.
That part he didn't tell me.
Yeah.
He didn't allow nobody on his property. Every square inch of his property had a posted sign and a barbed wire fence around the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's how the moonshiners are. They are like that. They don't want no one invading because one, they don't want their steel or whatever equipment they use to be found, and that's just how they are. And they trust me. I've heard stories where they will shoot.
Right.
They will shoot.
They don't let nobody come on their property, and if you do, you might get shot.
Yep.
And it ain't gonna be buckshot they're gonna be pulling out of you. They're gonna be pulling a high caliber rifle bullet out of you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But on that investigation, I went in there and I found footprints and I found tree twists. I didn't find no tree bows. And that was what was throwing me off on that investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so what's going on? I mean, what is causing these Bigfoot to come in here and take trees and twist them? And they would push trees over. The further back you got on his property, though, there was a road that went into the back side of his property from the front side. But once you got halfway up that road, you had to have 4 or 5 guys. Everybody better have a chainsaw, and it better be sharp, and you better have a lot of gas and oil.
Dang.
Because you're going to cut your way in, and then once you get out of there, you're going to be cutting your way out.
That quick, huh?
Yeah, it didn't bother them but to push the tree down.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I went in there, I walked in, and I started up the road. Well, I got smart after having to try to climb over top of tree number 5. I got off the road. Mm-hmm. And when I got off the road and got up towards the head of that holler, I started smelling a still, smelling the mash. It's a real sweet smell.
Right.
And went in there and, found a still, and I'm like, oh no, this is not going to be pretty. Don't tell me there's Yahoo here too. Well, those Bigfoot don't make the Yahoo sound.
Right.
Those Bigfoot are grassmen. They're aggressive. If you're there in the daylight and they don't want you there, they will push you out in the daylight. They won't wait till it's dark.
Wow.
Those Bigfoot proceeded after they found that I was on my way out. As I was on my way out, they proceeded to make sure that I did it at a hasty speed. And when I got back to the man's house, I looked at him. I said, look, I don't care about your still, but you can deal with the grass man. I said, I know you're feeding him mash or he's taking mash out of your still. One of the two. I don't care about your still. I don't want no trouble. Sorry, I can't help you. I knew to say no.
Right. Yeah, and that, most definitely, that would be nothing to play with that aggressive Bigfoot, because, I mean, that you're talking life or limb. Wow. We got a few minutes left, Bear, because I don't want to hold you up very long. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Q&A. I've got one question already so far from Al Santariga, and he wanted me to ask, how many different types of Bigfoots are there?
5.
5?
Yeah.
And is it like clan or family? Can you elaborate just a little bit on that?
I type them by the way that they look. Type 1s, in what I've seen, are the type that has the more aspects of a gorilla. Mm-hmm. They have the gorilla type nose. They have a gorilla type face. They're not aggressive. Most of them are not. I've never found one yet to be aggressive towards people. They're very shy. They want nothing to do with people. They will run and hide from you. Type 2 has a very prominent brow ridge. They have a human type nose. They don't have high cheekbones. Early man, they look like a early type of man, what science has said man looked like through the time of the Cro-Magnon man. Mm-hmm. They look like a Cro-Magnon man, pictures we've seen in TV and on, in your science books and everything. That's what they look like. Some of them have a gorilla type nose, some have a human type nose, but they have a very dominant brow ridge. Their eyes are deep inset eyes. They don't have the high cheekbones. They're more rounded and not prominent. They may have facial hair. Not all of them do. Some of them do. Some don't. Type 3 is your human type. Looks like a human face. Mm-hmm. Looks like a very big, large human covered in hair. If you look at yourself in the mirror, you could probably find a Bigfoot that looks like you.
Wow.
Type 4 This is the dangerous types. Type 4 is a gugway. Their name means face eater. Right. They will kill humans, given an opportunity to where it won't cause them harm. And they too have human facial features, but you start seeing that brow ridge coming out. Mm-hmm. And their face is always, there's always something wrong with their face. It's like it's hereditary. One side of their face might look perfectly fine, and then them turn, and the other side looks like, it might have some of the ape in them. They have, an ape aspect about their face.
Right.
But then you have, and they're pretty big animals. They're the type that are 8, 9 foot, 10 foot, pretty big creatures. Muscular development, and their teeth are broken up somewhat, but they do have a very prominent set of fangs. And then when you get to the gugway, the ones that eat their own and eat nothing but strictly meat, eat people, they eat their own kind, they'll eat any animal that's out there. I don't care what it is.
Right.
They just eat meat. They have teeth that look somewhat resemble a shark.
Oh, wow.
Very sharp, jagged teeth. It looks like you got a double row of teeth in their mouth. You got that prominent brow ridge again. Mm-hmm. And it's a combination of, it might be a flat nose or it might be a human nose. But they are so corrupted in their genetics because they interbreed so badly.
Right.
Their face is a hideous thing to look at. It might be, their eyes might look like it's got a bone structure that goes around the outside of the eye. But it's a prominent bone structure. The eyes are always wrinkled up. Their nose might be an ape-type nose, or it might be a human. But if it's a human nose, it don't stick out very far. Right. Their face is just kind of like your worst nightmare.
Wow.
And if everybody would combine Freddy Krueger, combine Jason, all the horror movies of the 60s and 70s together, and all those, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the guy that was the big guy that carried the chainsaw and he had this hideous face and all this stuff. Right. Combine all that together and you got a gugway.
Wow.
Not a gugway, but a Janoskwa.
Yeah. Wow, dude. Dang. And those are the 5 types, correct?
That's the 5 types that I have, yes.
Wow. Woo. I'm tongue twisted again, Bear. Dude from Texas wanted me to ask, and this is pretty interesting, how do most Bigfoot move around? Is it through cave systems or like most through wildlife?
Well, Bigfoot use any means that they can use to secretly move around. I don't care if it's cave systems. I don't care if it's the sewage system underneath the city. Mm-hmm. They will use it. They will use darkness to their best of it. That's their best time that they can get it by with everything. They know we can't see at night. They understand that, and they know it. Without a light. Because every time you go out at night, you flip the lights on, right?
Right.
They see us do that. They figure us out pretty quick. They also know that, at night, we're sitting in the house watching TV. And they like watching TV through your windows.
Really?
Yeah, they'll come and watch TV. We are their entertainment. We were in Indiana 2 or 3 years ago now, and we went to a part of a national forest there in Indiana near Indianapolis, and they had a bunch of Boy Scouts up there on that national forest that were staying there all night. Kids outside, 11 o'clock at night, having a great time for kids. Bigfoot was sitting back watching them. Because we let out howls and everything up there, and there's one howl that I can do that seems to get a response almost every time because it's an aggressive type howl. And my fellow researcher, and I know you're going to laugh on this, he calls it the constipated hillbilly scream. But that's what he said it sounds like. I don't know why, but that's his terminology.
Wow, you may have to patent that, man. That's awesome.
No, I don't know. No. I'm not going to patent it. It's enough to make your toes curl when I do it, and for every hair on your head to stand straight up.
Wow.
But we got a response from it, and they were within, when they responded to us, we were probably 300 or 400 yards away from those kids. We couldn't even hear them.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, you would hear a kid scream. And that kid was screaming because they were playing Nightlight or Spotlight or something. And those Bigfoot were within 100 yards of that camp, where that campground was at.
Wow, that's close.
And every one of them kids were up there in these big family-sized tents. There was not a camper in sight. They were in tents. But the Bigfoot were just sitting back watching them. A ridge, 100 yards away at night. They have great eyesight at night, and, we're their TV. Whether we're at home watching TV, if they can watch through your front window and see the TV and see what you're watching and see what's going on your TV, they'll sit there and watch it as long as they don't get seen. Or as long as somebody don't come outside and get close to them.
Right. Dang, that's amazing. So this next question will kind of flow right into what you were just talking about. Lisa A wanted me to ask, is it true that Bigfoot has a soft spot for women and children?
That's kind of a double-edged question.
And
And there's a reason behind this double-edged question. If you're a blonde woman or a blonde child or a redheaded woman or a redheaded child, they have a really different type of soft spot for you that you don't want to talk about. When it comes to women, and this pertains to women that are of age that can have children.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a blonde, change your hair color. That's the only thing I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, and I think I know where you're going with this because B-Moss and I talked about it. But yeah,
Right.
I know exactly what you're going with that.
The reason I say it is because, my job as an investigator is to find these things out and let other people know.
Right.
If you're a blonde-haired woman and you're camping in a tent and you're with a bunch of other women sitting around, having a good time, camping or whatever, and everybody goes to bed, the only person that's going to be bothered is the blonde-haired woman. For some unknown reason, they love a woman that has blonde hair. They may even abduct that woman and use her for, if there's anyone under 18, please ask them to leave at this point.
No, everybody's an adult in here, Bear.
Okay. If you're blonde haired and they take you, it's for sexual reasons.
Right.
Blonde hair affects the young males for some reason. I do not know why. I understand as a man, every guy wants a blonde haired, blue eyed girl.
Right.
That's what they used to say. Or blondes are more fun. I don't know because I don't care.
Right.
I've never worried about hair color. But Bigfoot take that to heart. And, that's not a good thing. Redheads are second in line. Brunettes usually don't have anything to worry about. Unless one's just girl crazy and then, all bets are off. Kids, the female, when it comes to kids, the female Bigfoot love blonde-haired little boys and girls and love red-headed little boys and girls. It fascinates them because they have a strange hair color.
Right. Wow. And you see, B and I talked about that the other day, and man, I had found that so astonishing, and it's just wild. And a lot of times, like the missing 411, some of the kids that did go missing were very light colored haired kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that explains a lot. Dude from Texas wanted me to ask, have you ever seen a gugwee?
Yes, I have seen all 5 types. And they're gugwee or it's gugway. He may have spelled it Gugwe.
Right.
It's gugway. Those are the ones that will predate upon human beings, given the chance and the opportunity to where they won't get harmed. They will follow you until you make a mistake or until you drop your guard, and they will grab you, break your neck instantly, and turn you into a shish kebab.
Wow. All right, Bear. One more question, and we're going to let you get to your night. And this question is mine. Do you believe that these Bigfoots can see IR lights off of trail cameras?
Yeah.
Wow.
They have night vision.
Really?
Yeah, Bigfoot can see at night easily. They have double, two-way vision. They can see in the daytime, great detail in the day, and they can see the same amount of detail at night. They may be able to pick up on the IR light, and it may not be the IR light that they pick up on game cams, because most game cams nowadays, they have that little tiny light. It's just a very small light that's on the front of them, whether it's red, blue, green, white, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That go right after the picture, right before the picture goes off, it lights up.
Right.
If you can find a game cam that doesn't have a light on the front or on the side, you have a better chance of getting a picture of one on a game cam. But the thing is, if you go into an area where Bigfoot is, they're watching you from the time you go in till the time you get back to your vehicle and leave.
So they're gonna
every time you go there.
So they're gonna already know it's there.
Right. They're not, like I said, they understand what a game cam is. They understand what a camera is. And they understand what guns are. They completely understand every one of those things. They know a gun can hurt them. And, you know, if you go into your investigation area and you get charged by one, you may wet yourself, but if you got a cell phone, pick it up like it's a gun. They'll change their mind pretty quick.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, I know to take my cell phone with me in the woods.
Well, you're down in the south, and if I was you, I would definitely carry, because you're in Texas, right?
Yes, sir.
Are you near the big thicket?
I'm probably about 2, maybe 2.5 hours from the big thicket, and probably about an hour and a half from Sam Houston.
Okay, well, if you go into those areas, you better carry more than a handgun.
Right. Well,
if you want to come out, right?
Absolutely.
And your better half would like you to come home.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So take every precaution that you can if you go into those two areas. They're super aggressive in them.
There's one thing I live by, Bear, and even in my property, when I go into a set of woods, I am always armed, and it's at least 2 firearms. One's a rifle and one's a sidearm. And let me just say, the rifle I carry is not bolt action.
Okay. Well, you know, my wife goes with me. You know, both of us are in our 50s, and my wife is only 5 foot tall.
Mm-hmm.
But when she goes, she carries the .357 Magnum and carries 2 boxes of ammunition with her that are in speed loaders, and she knows how to use the handgun. She's very accurate with it. But if we go on an investigation, I have a friend of mine that's been a friend of mine for 20 years or more. He's dealt with problem Bigfoot on his own property.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows if I look at him and say, get her out of here, he knows to get her back to the vehicle, get her in the vehicle, and leave. Don't look back. Just do what I tell you.
Right.
And the only time that I would ever have to tell him that was if we got into a situation where we ran into a Janoskwa type group of Bigfoot.
Right.
And thankfully that's never happened with my wife around. And I'm getting to the point now where when it comes to that type of Bigfoot, I don't want to do it. I'm getting too slow. These things are super fast and agile. They can cover 100 yards in a second or two if they want to. And I don't take those type of chances anymore.
I absolutely don't blame you. Absolutely don't blame you. All right, Bear, we're going to wrap it up. I just want to say, man, I absolutely appreciate you coming on tonight and giving us your time to talk about everything you talked about. It was
Mm-hmm.
it was truly an honor to meet you and speak with you tonight. And I hope real soon, I know you got some stuff going on, and I hope real soon we can get together and do this again, man. Because this has just been a lot of information. It's been a learning process for me tonight. I've taken some notes, and you better believe I'm gonna be watching this interview over and over and over again. Cause man,
Well, I'll tell you this, and this goes for anyone uh, that's out there, whether they're an investigator, they're having trouble with these creatures on their property. It doesn't make any difference. Go to my channel. My phone number is on my channel, or send me an email to the email associated with my channel. Both of those are in the community tab on my channel. If you're having trouble and you need some help, or if you're an investigator and you got questions, hey, give me a call. Send me an email. I'll do what I can to help you. I probably won't be coming to your house to run these things off, but, maybe I can figure out what's going on and help you with it in a way where it's not going to get you harmed or it's not going to hurt one of these creatures.
right,
Because you harm one and then, I hate to say this, but all hell breaks loose.
right,
And you don't want that. You don't want to have to come home one day and your front door is busted into 10,000 splinters and you go in and find what's left of your family.
right.
We don't want that happening.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And everybody, if you look in the description down below, I posted the link for Oldbear's channel. That's the quick way to get to it. If you can't find it, just click on it and go subscribe and watch his videos. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed, man. They are jaw-dropping. And with that, Bear, like I said, thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it. And I would like to get together with you in the near future, and hopefully we can talk again.
Okay.
All right, Bear, I'm going to let you get to your night. Like I said, tell your wife, all of us from Texas Encounters and Mysterious Sightings wishes her a happy Mother's Day. Right along with all the other mothers out there, happy Mother's Day tomorrow. And Old Bear, I'll keep in touch, and we will talk to you later, buddy.
All right, buddy.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. That wraps up the Old Bear interview. Go smash that like button. Go subscribe. Because this is how we do it. It's just bang, bang, bang. That's how we roll. That's how we do it. Nothing but the best. And with that, everybody have a great night. And this is Lieutenant, y'all, signing off.